Hi everybody, I'm Frédéric from Let There Be Cake. Welcome to the baking tutorials. When I first started thinking about making baking tutorials, it was I think around April, and everything I thought about was chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. Well, life under COVID happened and we are now in July, and there is nothing I want less than baked with chocolate. So I went to the farmer's market and I looked at what was around and I stumbled upon beautiful peaches. So it made sense that the first class will be based on a dessert created by a genius of the kitchen, a chef called Yotam Ottolenghi, and I freely admit to have a humongous food crush on the man. Everything he does is about enhancing the product. There's nowhere to hide, there's no sauces, there's no gimmicks. Everything is about the product. One of his recipes, and it's the one I'm going to show you today, is extremely simple. It is a peach tart. And peach tart by Ottolenghi means something interesting. I'm sure as you have tried before, there are some very interesting combination between fruits and herbs. For example, strawberries and basil, raspberries and mint. Well, for Ottolenghi, peaches go with rosemary, and that marriage is magical. It is a very simple tart. All you will need is a pound of peaches, which will be not overly ripe. It has to be in the balance between rock hard, which makes it impossible to open, and overripe or ripe enough to eat, which will make the slices crumbling. So what I did so half a pound of peaches, yellow peaches that I cut in 1/4 inch slices. For the people who are with us in grams and think in grams, it is 500 grams of peaches sliced in 1/2 centimeter, 5 millimeters slices. You will also need 2 branches of rosemary. You will need 60 grams of sugar, which is a 1/4 cup of sugar. You will also need 2 limes, nice and juicy, that will be washed and dried because you're going to need the rind. And a 1/4 teaspoon of cornstarch. So let's get started. And by the way, one thing I forgot to mention is that you're gonna need puff pastry. So in my case, I make it myself. You can buy it at the supermarket. It's not the same, but it is what it is. If you do have a friendly French bakery around where you are, you can always order puff pastry. They usually agree to sell it to you. If you have a Russian store close by, go to their frozen section. They usually have very good puff pastry. So for that, you will need 250 grams of puff pastry, which is, if you buy it in that packaging with 2 sticks, you'll need 1, so 1/2 pound. And I'm going to right away put it back in the fridge because the heat is pretty intense and puff pastry does not like the heat. Okay, let's get started. So in the bowl, we're going to put the 60 grams, the 1/4 cup of sugar. You're going to take a vegetable peeler and peel one of the limes in thick pieces. You're going to get about 7 big ones. They're much harder than usual. I don't know why. Maybe it's not as ripe. Okay, it's peeled. I'm going to cut it in half and squeeze the juice of the lime in the bowl. With a spoon, you're going to mix well so that the sugar is dissolved in the lime. Hold on. You then pour all the peaches in and gently mix everything together. You now add the 2 sprigs of rosemary. So this is when I put my fingers in and gently mix everything until you feel that all the peach slices are covered with the lime juice and the sugar. This is what you're gonna end up with. At this point, take a piece of plastic wrap, seal it, and let it rest for about an hour to 2 hours. I'll see you a little bit later and we'll continue the recipe. So I just brought the puff pastry from the fridge. It's nice and chilled. All I have to do is take it and put it in my mold. The type of mold that I use is actually very practical because the bottom is removable. So it's quite easy to then unmold your tart. Here we go. We're going to put it all over. Make sure that the sides are really well covered by the dough, and make sure to press against the walls. Otherwise, everything will collapse. To have clean edges, take a rolling pin. You go on the side and you roll against the mold. You have nice, clean, and professional looking sides this way. In this weather, I highly recommend chilling the tart before baking it, or even putting the garniture in, because as I said earlier, puff pastry really dislikes tremendously the heat. Why? Because puff pastry is based on butter, and what you want when it cooks is for the butter to have a thermal shock between the heat and the cold butter, which is what's going to make the puff pastry expand and get all fluffy. So if your dough is warm, the butter will never react to the heat the same way. So I've put my puff pastry in. I'm going to prick all over like this. This way it will not puff up when cooking. And so I will put it back in the fridge for half an hour. Welcome back. It's been an hour. The peaches are ready. Here they are. I am telling you, the smell is incredible. I'm going to put the rosemary on the side, but keep it. You're going to need it later. Now, I took a colander over a bowl, and I'm going to gently put everything, all the peaches, inside. You want to drain them very well, because you do not want too much moisture on the pie. You're going to have what Paul Hollywood says, a soggy bottom. You remove the lime zest. And I just heard my oven just told me it was time. I preheated it at 350 Fahrenheit, which is 180 Celsius. Convection, if you have, is always much better when you make that type of pies, because the rotating heat in the oven really makes the pies or the cookies much fluffier. But if you do have only a convection, traditional oven, don't worry about it. Just, it might take maybe five minutes more to have the cook you want. So I'm draining, and I'm continuing to drain. Okay, I think it's good. The pie crust is just out of the fridge. And what we're gonna do, very simply, we're gonna take slices, and there's some which obviously will be bigger, and we're going to spread them like so. I don't know if you can see here. All over in circles. It's easier for me to do it like this. And while I'm doing this, let me talk to you a little bit more about Yotam Ottolenghi. So the man, the chef is an Israeli chef, Israeli born, who moved first to France and then to England, and ended up revolutionizing vegetarian cooking. He's a pastry chef trained, he's a baker, but his success came from his vegetarian dishes. He has multitude of restaurants in England. He also, part of his popularity is the fact that he created some of the best cookbooks on the market. You have Jerusalem, plenty more. Everything is about the vegetable. He by now has literally a cult following, and I'm a Tartarian member. There's nothing wrong that can be done by Ottolenghi. He also has a very unusual characteristic, which is that when you have a book by Ottolenghi or a recipe by Ottolenghi, don't ask yourself questions. He proofreads himself his recipes for his books, and it is extremely rare to find a mistake, which is in itself incredible because most of the chef's recipes are usually filled with mistakes. Okay, first round is done. This is what it looks like. Continue on the second round. As you noticed earlier, I'm sure, I was giving the ingredient list first in grams and then in pounds or ounces or cups or half a cups or whatever. The reason is, if you're serious about baking, join the ranks of the gram loggers. It is much more accurate, and most of the serious cookbooks will be done in grams. It is much easier to tell someone to measure 3 grams of something than saying a hundredth of an ounce. I mean, it's much more precise. Okay, it's taking a little time because they're a little bit soggy, which is not good. If you have a chance, I would highly recommend making more slices of peaches, because in this marinade, if you have leftovers, you would be in for a treat if you put some slices like that over vanilla ice cream or plain yogurt. That is absolutely incredible. And I'm telling you right now, the smell in here, just from the peaches, is crazy good. We're nearly done here. As you see, it's very fast. Nearly done. Oops. Wow, I did well. I'm just at the last pieces and I've just got just enough to finish. Look at this. Isn't that pretty? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this as is in the oven. As I said, it was preheated at 350 Fahrenheit, 180 Celsius. The grate is at the lowest level in the oven. And I'm going to put that in for 25 minutes and I'll see you then. While the pie is baking, you're going to take the reserved juice of the peaches. I could drink it right from there. And pour a quarter cup of, look at that. I would not have done it better if I had tried. Just a quarter cup in a small pan. This is when I'm going to add my quarter of a teaspoon of cornstarch. And I'm going to go to the stovetop and I'm going to boil this down until you get some type of syrup. Make sure that you whisk the cornstarch very well. You do not want any pebbles of cornstarch in your mix. It will reduce to about 5-6 tablespoons. You will see at some point it's going to be a glaze basically. So I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, it's been 30 minutes. I just took it out of the oven. I did do the glaze. It took about 3 minutes on heavy boil, and this is what you end up with. It's a thick glaze. So I just put it on the board, and with a brush, I'm going to brush that nectar of the gods. I'm telling you, it is smelling so good. You just want to dive right in. It's that good. Nice and all over. I think that should be it. A little bit more. Actually, one thing I wanted to tell you also is that if you are interested to know more about Ottolenghi, he also has a culinary page, chronicle, on the Guardian.uk. So if you're interested, actually this recipe comes from that site. So Guardian.uk, Ottolenghi. Now, the reserved rosemary. Just pluck a few leaves of rosemary and put it over. I'm going to put that away so you can see it. Do not put the rosemary sprig like this on the tart, because you're going to have something so medicinal. It's not even funny how disgusting it's going to be. So here, a little goes a long way. I think that should be it. A little bit more up. Okay, so I'm going to put it back. Here is what it looks like. So I'm going to put it back for 30 more minutes. I'm going to start looking at about 20 minutes to see what's going on. Again, if you have a conventional oven, it might take maybe 5 more. Every oven is different, so it's really difficult to say. I know that for me it will take half an hour and it will be done. As I said, it's really nothing to it. So back in the oven for 30 minutes. See you then. So there it is. It's been 30 minutes. I just took the tart out of the oven. The smell in the house is incredible. All I have to do is take a lime, microplane, or if you do not have a microplane, take a cheese grater on the thinnest, smallest setting. All you need to do is just zest some lime all over the tart. That will give really the finishing touch. The tart is really best the same day. The next day you will have a crust that will be a little bit softer and soggier. That cannot be helped. That's puff pastry and humidity. This is done. Here we have it. We didn't have to work much on it. I don't know if you can see the goodness here. After about half an hour rest, it's ready to eat, or it can be kept at room temperature for about an hour. Anyway, as you see, it was very simple. It's actually one of the desserts we constantly make at home. Our summer barbecues, summer dinners usually end with this tart. It can be made like here with yellow peaches. It can also be made with nectarines if that's what you have. So here you have it, the peach, rosemary and lime tart. Hope you try it. So if you have any questions, post the questions. If you make it, please do take pictures and post them. Enjoy it. Bon appétit. À bientôt.